Hi, happy July 1st from Chickenwood Studio. This is Lori coming to you from upstate New York in the northeast of the USA, out in the boonies a little bit, south of the Adirondacks, north of New York City. And I'm really just happy I had a chance to get back in touch and record today and catch you up on stuff I've talked about in the last episode and things that have been happening and things I've been working on, and to say hello and hope you're doing well. One little update, I did change my Ravelry username to LF Dubois, LF Dubois. It's the same as it is on Instagram. I just decided to make things more simple and consistent. And so I used to be Piper Mom. Now I'm just going with LF Dubois. So if you look for me over there, you could still find me by Chickenwood Studio podcast group on Ravelry. But I otherwise will be known as LF Dubois and Lori MF Dubois on the YouTube channel. So that's that news, and I think I'll just move right in. I have a few FOs, some works in progress, just some sewing news, and I'll just dive right in and begin with something that I had been talking about and working on the last couple podcasts, and it was an FO for about a week. And it was a huge sweater. It was the heathered cardie that I knitted up with my hand-spun Romney roving. And I was knitting with my friend Barb the other night, and she had watched the whole thing happen. And I told her how huge it was. I didn't even bring it to show her. And she said, "Oh, well, just rip it out. If you love the yarn, you won't like it the way it is, just rip it out." And I've done that several times before, even with whole sweaters, and totally kind of blocked that out of my memory because I couldn't fathom all these stitches because fuzz on my face. Because I think I did it on a size 5 and it's kind of DK weight. And I was going with a hand of similar to I was looking at the stopover sweater and noticing how the gauge is so looser than a lot of your typical heavy sweaters. A worsted weight using like a size 8 needle, so I sort of followed that ratio-ish. And I was doing a size 5 needle on this DK. And this is where I'm at, ripping it out. I've done the sleeves and the button bands and everything and the neck band, and it was a top down, so this is how it started. And it is a lovely, just really smooth, soft, consistent, beautiful yarn. So, pardon me while I pick up some off the floor. This is what it is now. Back to its yarn form, just about. This is like the body of the sweater all in one big ball. And back to thinking about what it'll be in its next incarnation. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to rush into anything because I have some other things going on, quite a few. But it's kind of nice to know I can try again and I can enjoy knitting that yarn again. It took long enough to spin it, and I had a lot of work, so I did not want to put that on the shelf as a sweater and never enjoy it. I think the gauge may have relaxed after blocking, and the nice open neckline turned out to be way too open, and the whole thing just drooped. I remember Meg Swanson somehow seeing in one of her videos something about the dreaded frontal droop, and I think that was in the context of her teaching about using short rows in the back, the upper back of sweaters. And of course I've known that for ages too, and I can never seem to remember to put it into the sweaters that I make. I've never seen it built into or designed into sweaters that have been designed recently. But I kind of started knitting under her tutelage by watching a lot of her videos, and that was such a practical application of just making things fit and stand up properly. And most people, you see how the back of their sweaters bunch up and they stick out in the bottom and the fronts droop down. And if you short row a whole bunch, not too much, just a little strip across the back of the shoulders, if you can fit it in the pattern sneakily, it helps to shape, our shoulders are round or not just a straight back. So I have all this knowledge, but I did not, think to put that in my sweater. Not that it matters anyway, because the gauge was all wrong. Pardon me. So if you've ever, too much fiber floating around, if you've ever come to a conclusion that your project is never going to work right, it's certainly okay to rip it out. I mean, you can give it away, you could try and fix it and sew it, but I've done this a few times now. So the other FOs I have, just a few. In some other podcasts I've been seeing the Vivid blanket show up, and I have to lean over a little bit. I saw them in quite bright colors, and I just really love the shape of the pattern square, the design of it. And I have a whole bunch of hand-spun, hand-dyed, sort of leftover skeins. And I thought how pretty that would be to do a Vivid in these tones. So I have 3 squares done. I think this is the first one. I think this one was blocked. These are some of those indigo dyed yarns, indigo and over dyed, and some natural color. There's that one. And this one's not blocked yet, but it will block out flat. I just finished this one last week. Some natural color gray. I think this was left over from the mystery bats that I used for my, what was that shawl by Kari Westerman? Oh my heavens, I'm blanking. Anyway, left over from a nice shawl. And this one has also been blocked. Some gray and some navy. I don't think that was indigo dyed. I think that was just a dark blue blend. So I'm looking forward to having that blanket happen a lot more quickly. It's a little quicker, what do you call it? More instant gratification. Not exactly instant, but quicker than the little tiny sock scrap blankets, which I started with a bang and haven't really looked at in quite a while. Just had to get away from those, and just really was having fun with these heavier yarns. And I have them in this bag. Pardon me. I've been making these totes, and I've been putting them. I finally opened up my Etsy shop on Etsy, obviously, and I've put a couple bags up for sale. They're lined. Some have pockets inside. I'm generally going to put the pockets inside the lining, and they are good sized. I mean, it looks pretty huge in the screen, but they're about, I don't know, maybe 18 wide, maybe 12 tall, and can hold quite a bit. So that's the Vivid ongoing, which is kind of relaxing. It's a tricky pattern to start because you have to do that reinforced cast on, which I learned it as the Emily Ocker cast on because, again, Meg Swanson, I saw it in her teachings. Very interesting. You cast on around a loop of yarn, and you can look it up. It's also called, oh boy, now I don't remember what else is in the pattern, but that essentially is what it is. So you're starting with 8 stitches on 4 different DPNs. So you pretty much have to hold it flat over a table or the needles just go all over the place. So that's a square that is tricky to begin, and I need to be alone to think about it and concentrate. But once it's on the go and you've got lots of stitches on each needle, and you don't have to worry too much about it. It's a nice pattern. That's from Tin Can Knits, I believe, the Vivid blanket, square blanket. And so let's see. I have a couple of finished socks to show you. They're not pairs, and one of them is not quite finished. This is the Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern by Erica Luder, I believe. And all I have to do is Kitchener off the toe. And that one's done. These fit really well. I thought they'd be a little bit roomy because this pattern has a lot of pearls. And I thought it made it a bigger, but it fits great. It's fine. And the yarn is from Highland Handmaids up in Maine. It's called Underpass Art. Aren't those colors awesome? It's just a fun, going to be a great pair of socks. Now I kind of wish I'd done 2 at a time, but I didn't. So now it's time to cast on the next one, which should be fun. This is in my, isn't it fun when they match colors? I just have to get geeky and show you this. Who would know, that I would have a bag to match my socks? I got this from Mina Makes. She's a expat podcast, knitting expat podcast over in Bahrain. We did a swap last year, and that was her bag. The other sock is my first Agatha sock is finished, which I'm super happy with. It fits really well. It's a tricky pattern for me. I had to really pay attention a lot, but I think it's great. It's from Claire McAvoy of New Hampshire Knits. And the yarn is from Schweitzer's Woolen Mill in Pennsylvania. I picked it up at Rhinebeck this last fall. It's a Polworth sock yarn, and I just thoroughly enjoyed knitting with it. I would love to get some Polworth to spin. That is really a nice feeling. I don't know if I could spin it as nicely as this sock yarn. Look at that. It kind of goes with my baggie. This is a bag that I made. Started making project bags, and I'll probably put a couple of these zippered ones up on the Etsy shop too. So I really enjoy making them and putting together different fabrics. And I only need just so many. Anything else? The mitts. The mitts I've been talking about for months, and I put them down and I hadn't knit on them in ages. And this past month I kind of got back into them. These are a pattern by Kirsten Caper, Through the Loops. She's a designer in New York. And it's the Kanagawa mitts. Look at that beautiful wave pattern on there. And it's got the Latvian braid to begin with. I think I'm at the thumb gusset, and that's probably why I stopped. Because thumb gussets need me to concentrate. But when I get away this summer, hopefully, when I have some chunks of time where I can apply my brain. And this yarn is the Tide yarn from Starcroft, the Nash Island Tide. And I bought a bouquet of colors from Janny up at Starcroft. Aren't they sweet? Oh, I just love them. So this is going really well. And the bag I have these in is from Tracy in England. Thimble and Thread Make. She has a podcast, and she does beautiful, beautiful bags. She calls this her Sherwood Forest. I may have shown you this before. Sorry if I'm being redundant. This is the Star Shawl, and it is a huge cast on. It was 400 and some stitches. And this is the yarn that I had left over after the sweater, the Romney 3-ply handspun, that I had dyed in the indigo pot last month. And I've just finished the first 40 rows of garter stitch, and I'm ready to begin the lace. This is a Faroese type shawl. It's a big one. It's going to be a real snuggly, wonderful, huggy, wrap around you kind of thing. Oh, I don't have the photo. Well, you can look it up on Ravelry. It's a garter lace. A garter-based lace. So it's yarn overs and knits on both sides all the way, and it has a center panel of 19, and it's you're shaping toward around the center panel. And I believe there might be shoulder shaping. I haven't gotten there yet. This is one of my bags. Just made one for me. We have a quilt shop nearby that has some really pretty fabrics. And I love this crosshatchy lining fabric. If I turn the zipper down, it's a little easier on the yarn. But isn't that cute? I love batiks too, sometimes. So those are my works in progress as far as knitting goes. I've been sewing some, which has been amazing. Things actually have come out okay. I did Sonia Phillips' dress number 1. And I used this gorgeous linen rayon blend. It came out so well. I couldn't believe it. I've actually worn it twice. Once just as it was. It's a sleeveless sundress-ish. And then once with a white t-shirt under it, just for a little extra layer. And it's so comfortable. It fit really well. And I learned more every time I do a project, but I'm really learning how to apply bias strips for edges. So that was a really happy success. And then I did the tunic of Ellen Mason's Anne Carolyn smock. And I did that in this fun print. It's a little too warm to wear right now, but it came out really well and it fit really well. And I did adjust one thing which helped it. I just put an extra inch or two in the front gathered panel. The pattern was just a little snug when I did the first wearable muslin out of a different cotton. I'm not sure if I showed you that. So just by adding a little bit of more ease around the bottom helped immensely. So I've worn that a few times too. So that really makes me feel good about keeping on sewing. So I bought some fabric to do some pants from Sonia Phillips, and I haven't bought any more garment fabric, but I have bought some more fabric for some sewing for some bags. And I thought maybe I'd show you just a sneak peek of a couple of those. I couldn't resist this one at my local quilt shop. Isn't that just the sweetest? And this is going to be the lining. Cute little hedgehogs. You see them okay? There they are. Aw, I love that. So that'll be a small zipper bag. This I'm not sure if it'll be a zipper bag or a tote. It's a heavier fabric. I think it would hold up well as a tote or a zipper bag. I probably have enough of it to do one of each. These were some really cute ones I just picked up the other day. You may have seen these around, sewing themed. There's the darker version, and then there's just the models. What do you call those? I can't remember. And some fun lining fabrics. Looks like thread. Okay. Oh yeah, I was talking about fabric and project bags, and I found this upstairs in my collection of fabrics for baggies. And this was some hand-woven that I had set aside, and I thought it's not enough. You know, it was more like a practice. Well, it was a section that I had to stop and restart, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, and I just thought that would be a really nice little notions bag or something. Maybe a sock project bag. I don't know if it'd be quite big enough for that, but I'll think of something. And then that was it for sewing. I have been weaving a set of towels for an order, and today doing this recording is my reward for getting this batch done. It was challenging for a few different reasons. I guess every project seems to be, because you're learning all the time, and problems come and you have to solve them, and that's half part of the fun of weaving when it works out well and you've fixed something or you've improved what you're doing. And this batch of towels uses a half linen, half cotton blend, and that makes a fantastic towel, especially the more you use it. That's the way linen is. But the tensioning on the loom can sometimes be a problem. So there's a lot of adjustments to do as you go. But anyway, this is one of my Garnet Lake towels. Da-da-da. Done and dusted. Well, I have a bunch more to hem, but I did hem one just for you guys. So it's just a checkered dish towel, tea towel, as my English friends will say. And the colors were chosen by a friend of mine who asked me to make the towels. And the pattern, although I can't claim the pattern, I saw this at my friend Carol Foster's shop kitchen once. Carol Foster of the Foster Farm. and she lives about 45 minutes from me, and I met her through local spinning groups and stuff. So I've been over to her farm and her shop for a weaving or spinning day, and somebody had woven her a beautiful towel just like this, except it was blue and brown. So I made a set of the blue and brown, and my friend who likes to hike in the Adirondacks, what did we call that? Oh, the colors were blue and dark brown, barky dark brown. Blue, so we called it Chapel Pond, which is one of the lakes in the Adirondacks. In the winter, with the bluish, whitish ice, and the dark of the trees, and the blue of the sky, maybe. I don't know, it's just kind of an inspiration. And this color being as it is, Garnet Lake is another lake up in the Adirondacks. And of course, the lake's not this color, but it's the color you think of when you think of garnet. So I think some of these will go in the Etsy shop too, although I have some of them already called for. So we'll see how many are left after I hear from that person. So my looms are empty except for the rug loom. So now I feel like I can actually go and try and make some rugs. So yay. But I have to start another towel project too. And the big news that hopefully I'll have something on the barn loom too. And I'm going to put a little insert to show you of some of the weaving on the Louette loom of the garnet towels, just for fun, because I know some of you had been interested in weaving. And so I finally got that all together and shared that with you. Yeah, how I had started with floor loom. I have since sold that one. It's been really kind of interesting over the years to switch around equipment. Been on many a loom quest with my friend Amy. We both got the weaving bug at around the same time, so we were watching Search Tempest and looking for looms hither and yon, and that was just such a neat time. We'd bring home piles of sticks and build them, figure out how to use them, and then maybe we would decide we'd rather have a different type of loom, so we'd sell them and get another one. I at one point had a 60-inch weaving with finish loom, big giant hulk of a loom, counter march, and it took up my whole room downstairs in my little extra loom room. But I did weave some things on it, but I had to crawl underneath to change the treadles to tie them up for every new pattern. That was just about the time when it was getting harder and harder as I got older to get on the floor and on my hands and knees and do that stuff, sadly. But all I needed to do was get a different kind of loom. What I just did, I wasn't paying attention because I'm chatting while I'm weaving, and I had done 2 shots in the same shed, which is, in this case, I only have 2 sheds for this pattern. I have, to make a plain weave is simply over and under, and the next row is under and over and under and over, just like your hot pads of yore, with the little weaving loops. So I have one treadle that pulls down 2 and 4 and makes this opening, and then the other treadle that pulls down 1 and 3 and makes the opposite opening. So I had shot a new chute across with the shuttle without changing my feet because I was yakking. So here I am. I'm ready to come back toward the right. I have it set up so that my right treadle goes down when I'm moving the shuttle to the right, and I have my left for the left. So anyway, this little David has 8 shafts, and it's a descending jack loom. As you can see, the treadles make the shafts go down instead of up. Whoa, sometimes I get crazy and the shuttles can dive either down through the warp down to the floor or through the warp up above if I'm not careful. I love these little hollow shuttles. They're lightweight, and they have great points here. I think they're shacked shuttles. I think they are almost my favorites. Well, they're my favorite boat shuttles. I have an end feed shuttle by Bluster Bay, which is a whole different kind of process in there. I mean, it has a thing called a pern, and you wind it and it all comes off at one end. You're not going back and forth on a little shuttle. I have my 3 inches here, so I'm going to stop the black and show you how I do the little white stripe that matches the warp. I tuck the tail in under one thread, pull that up above, do my first shot, and later on I will cut all these little tails and they will blend right in. So I just go over and back twice, over and back, and that mirrors the 4 threads that I have in my warp. I have 4 and 4. So this pattern, although it's simple to thread, and it's very simple down below with the treadles, it is time consuming because of all this thread cutting. But it's also pretty enjoyable. Red is next, so I'm going to tuck in my red thread on the end, pull it up the top, and away we go. So I'm down in the cellar, and behind me is Big Bertha, the barn moon, and I will talk a little bit more about her in the podcast because I'm really looking forward to going to Vermont for some weaving classes, which will be on some antique looms at the Marshfield School of Weaving. And I hope to come home all inspired and equipped to get a project on Bertha. Ooh, gotcha. With confidence, or at least some more confidence than I have had in the past. I've put it off. I've had other projects that I had to do, and this towel order is one of them. So I'm going to finish these towels hopefully in the next 2 days and start thinking about what we'll put on Bertha for the rest of the summer. So I hope you've enjoyed this little weaving segment, and if you have any other questions about it, do shoot me a line and let me know. Thanks. Actually this month now, it's July, I'm super excited to be going up to Marshfield, Vermont in a week and a half to attend the Marshfield School of Weaving. That's the school that Norman Kennedy started. I believe he started it. And they focus a lot on traditional and historical weaving. And I'm so excited. I can't even believe I'm finally doing it. I've thought about going up there for years, and I've never gone to any kind of an intensive weaving class, except 1 week way back up in Cape Breton. I went to the Gaelic College and took some weaving classes for 2 weeks, or no, 1 week. But that was when I first began, was ages ago. It was a great experience though, and I loved it, but it was part of a whole family experience, so it wasn't just me taking off and going and really, focusing. So this is it. I'm going on my own. There's only one other person in the class. We're going to do 4 different types of weaving on 4 different looms, and some overshot, some checked linen toweling. 2 others I can't remember now. But I'll have a lot to share after I come back from there, and I'll tell you all about it. I'm super psyched. So I'm hoping I'll be inspired to get something on Bertha now that my obligation weaving is done. Although I enjoyed it. It's not only obligation, but it does get you going and getting you doing it when you have a goal and you have someone waiting to receive it. Actually, I've needed that to keep me focused because I am like a butterfly floating all around to all the different projects. So that'll be fun to share about. I was thinking about starting a new segment called Tips and Tools of the Trade. And I was thinking how sometimes when you're knitting, you have your favorite tools and accessories. And one that I've used for years that I have never seen anyone else talk about. It's the simplest concept ever. And I first heard about it from Elizabeth Zimmerman and her daughter Meg, and they sell these on their online store, Schoolhouse Press. And they're just coilless pins. They're safety pins without that coil down there, which is super wonderful for knitting because your yarn does not get caught up in that coil. And I have used them for stitch holders, stitch markers. They talk about marking stitches by, going up through like a vertical section. Instead of having a ring around your needle that you have to slip every time, you can use a coilless pin just to mark. Here, I'll pin this on and show you what I mean. You can have it there just as a reminder, and you can see between two columns of stitches where maybe your next decrease or increase needs to be, or your pattern repeat. And so you do have to move it. Eventually you have to move, as you progress up in your knitting, you have to move the pin up so you'll see it, but you don't have to transfer it every time you knit a row. So there are some times in knitting when that is really handy. So Meg sells these for, I don't know, you get about 25 in a little packet for probably under $5. I've just bought some recently, but I don't remember what that was. So that's my tip and my trick and tips of the trade for today. I'm looking through my little tools to see if there's anything else that's interesting. This is a little notion bag that I made with some vinyl for a window. And nothing terribly new or exciting in there. Some special things, but, sort of mementos. I get tools as souvenirs sometimes. And I picked up these lovely little scissors at a quilt shop in Lee, Massachusetts last September. They're very sweet. This, I think, from my local yarn shop, Trumpet Hill in Colony. It's just a little tiny crochet knitting repair tool. Super handy to have. Highly recommend you have one of those. And everyone has their favorite kind of darning or weaving in needles. But I thought, since I'm talking so much about Schoolhouse Press, I have no affiliation, just a fan. They also sell these darning needles, sewing up needles, by individual needle or groups of two maybe, and they have a really sharp one and a blunt one. And your blunt one is for your sewing, knitting things together, and the sharp one I use for weaving in ends to skim across through threads. So I always have a bunch of those on hand. Schoolhousepress.com, you can reach them. They have lots of wonderful books. I've mentioned them before because I've purchased some of her books that she puts out. And this is knitter's soap that I made for washing your woolens. It has some lanolin in it, so that when you're washing your wool and your soap has sort of washed away, or if it's hand spun, you've washed out the extra lanolin along with the dirt and grease. And this is a soap that has a little bit of lanolin in, so it just returns a little of the lanolin to the yarn, and also is nice for your hands. Let me read the ingredients for you. Oh boy, good luck. Palm, coconut, olive, soy, and castor oils, a little bit of lard, lanolin, sugar, kaolin clay, silk, essential oils, fragrance oil, and argan oil for conditioning. So there's a little extra oil, argan, which is a great conditioner for our hair too. So between the argan and the lanolin, it should be really nice for your yarn. And my little teeny tiny Chickenwood label on there. So I may put these up on the Etsy shop too. We'll see. I'm thinking that might be it today. I did have one book recommendation though, and I don't have the book with me because it was a library book and I returned it. I had seen this book on the podcast done by Katie, Inside Number 23. And I don't even think I saw the whole podcast or even saw her refer to the book. I just saw it in like the opening segment and then I had to leave. And it's the book by Elizabeth Gilbert. She is the author of Eat, Pray, Love. And this book that I read by her is called Creative Living Without Fear. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend it to to you. And as fellow creators, crafters, makers, if you ever, I don't know, if you ever struggle with certain parts of that, you'll see what I mean if you read the book. I wish I had it with me to read a review or something, but it really inspired me to just go for it. You know, stop thinking so much about why and if you should or if you shouldn't put in the effort, or I don't even know how to even put it into words, but I think we have the need to make stuff and be creative and come up with ideas and work them out with our hands. And I think that's a gift. And I think sometimes if everyone else doesn't share that gift, we can doubt ourselves and wonder, you know, why we do, or maybe we shouldn't pursue, or whatever. But this book encouraged me to just relax about that and embrace the, I don't know, the inspiration or the interest, the efforts and all that, and go with what you love and not worry about it. So I'm kind of rambling on. I can't believe there isn't more to chat with you about. It seems like I'm missing something. Well, I'll give you a quick update on my daughter, GPS. She's on the trail. We dropped her off in Paulding, New York on June 13th with her hiking buddy, Kat, and they're doing well, and they've been almost 3 weeks out there. And if you're ever interested in reading some blog posts by people who are actually on the trail this year, she's a part of the website Appalachian Trials. I was going to put that on a card. Of course, I didn't. Appalachian Trials, not Trails. And it's a website that hosts these blog writers. Here, AppalachianTrials.com. And they host current hikers on the AT, some on the Pacific Rim this season. And she's one of their bloggers, and she has posted a couple times since she's been out. Corinne Dubois, let's see, her opening message was Wonders and the Why, and that explains why she wanted to go. And I don't remember the other titles, but you can find her if you look up the blog authors page. But if you can't find it and you're interested, just shoot me a message and I'll give you a direct link to her page. And we've been getting a daily digest of about 5 to 7 blog posts from bloggers both coasts, and it's been really, really interesting. People just sharing about their challenges, and not just their challenges, but the amazing things that they've seen and the people they've met, which make it worthwhile. And it's just been so encouraging and just so interesting. A little window into a life, or a part of life, a window into something that most of us would never dream of doing, or maybe do dream of doing but could never do it. It's just really fascinating. So that's been fun. She's going to come home for 4th of July and catch up a little bit. But thanks for watching. If you're a new viewer, definitely thanks for trying this podcast out, and thanks for coming back if you've been here before. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to comment here on the YouTube page or over in the Ravelry group. And if you have any questions, just put them up there. Feel free. I love to hear from you guys, and it's always interesting, and I'd love to, get to know you guys better and meet new folks. We've had some new subscribers recently because of Sarah of Fiber Trek had said something about watching the podcast. So thanks, Sarah. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I look forward to catching up with Sarah maybe later this summer, because Corinne on the trail is ending her portion of the hike at Katahdin in Maine, in Baxter State Park. So we are hoping to grab the family and travel up to the park. spend a couple of days while some of them hike the mountain with her, and I might be able to connect with Sarah. We'll see, have some knitting time and visiting. That would be a blast. So I wish all of you well and happy spinning, happy knitting, happy sewing, happy whatever it is you're making, or happy vacationing. Just be well, and thanks for visiting with me and making this possible. So we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.